Blake Lively is dropping two of her claims against Justin Baldoni. We are now very many moons away from the initial filings. So why is she suddenly abandoning those two most pertinent claims?
Blake Lively is officially in meltdown mode after Bryan Freedman torpedoed her lawsuit with one brutal, brilliantly simple move. It was a masterstroke just waiting to happen. In typical fashion, Blake tried to duck the fallout, dropping two major claims in what looked like a strategic retreat. But Freedman wasn't about to let her slip away unscathed.
Very dramatic lawsuit. And Baldoni's team said no dice to this, okay? They went to the judge and said that is ridiculous.
His demand for concrete medical evidence hit like a courtroom bombshell, sending shockwaves through the case and leaving Blake visibly scrambling. Her lawsuit is unraveling faster than a bargain bin legal drama, messy, chaotic, and oddly mesmerizing. It's the kind of train wreck nobody asked for, but everyone can't stop watching.
This initial filing, Blake Lively uses the term, or just uses the word rather, suffer 31 times. She uses the word emotional 30 times and distress 18 times throughout this filing.
On May 15, 2025, Blake did a full 180 and abruptly withdrew her emotional distress claims against Justin Baldoni, the very allegations where she painted herself as the picture of psychological devastation, humiliation, trauma, mental anguish, all wiped clean with a single motion. So now, the question hanging in the air: did the evidence vanish, or was it never there to begin with?
Baldoni's team obviously are preparing for this lawsuit. She's asking for money. She's asking for these damages. She is saying that she's been so aggrieved. The language is so strong.
Enter Bryan Freedman. If the courtroom's a battlefield, he's the general who just outmaneuvered the entire opposing camp. He didn't just let Blake quietly erase her claims from the record. Not even close.
Suddenly, Baldoni's team is saying, okay, let's see your medical records. Duh.
He went tactical, blocking her from withdrawing the allegations without prejudice, the legal equivalent of saying, you don't get to walk away now and come back later like nothing happened. If Blake wants out, she needs to show her receipts.
Emotional, you can't get out of bed, you're sick, you can't eat, can't sleep. You know, let's go through and see if you were seeing a psychiatrist.
In short, Freedman slammed the door shut on Blake's legal escape hatch, making it crystal clear: no burden of proof, no comeback tour. That move, a pure mic drop, bold, razor sharp, and a devastating blow to Lively's already crumbling narrative.
Because of the phase of discovery. Okay.
So what does this all mean? With the emotional distress claims officially off the table, Blake's case starts to look less like a legitimate grievance and more like a house of cards, propped up by shaky accusations and whispers, not hard evidence. Because let's be real, you can't cry emotional anguish in court if you're unwilling or unable to back it up with proof.
They go to Judge Lehman and they file this motion essentially saying that they want the judge to compel her to sign a HIPAA privacy release.
And based on how Freedman's been methodically shredding her case, it's becoming painfully clear that proof was never there to begin.
No, this is the worst thing we've ever seen.
Now here's where things get extra juicy. The timing. Just as Blake quietly pulls back from the emotional trauma narrative, a flood of suspiciously glowing press hits the internet. Former directors gushing about her professionalism. Co-stars calling her a joy. All those warm and fuzzy headlines don't scream broken by harassment. They scream PR cleanup in aisle 5.
That solitary allegation, right, the emotional distress, infliction of emotional distress, was perhaps the most consistent claim of her entire suit.
Because if the trauma was real and overwhelming, why does the narrative suddenly feel so polished? It's like watching a reality show where the villain magically starts getting fan mail overnight, and you're left wondering, was the villain ever real or just good editing?
So Team Baldoni goes, what do you mean you're not going to file a release? You obviously have to prove your claims. So they go to the judge, they go to Judge Lehman, and they file this motion essentially saying that they want the judge to compel her to sign a HIPAA privacy release.
But here's the real kicker. This withdrawal isn't just about sidestepping legal landmines. It's about control, about locking down her private life before it becomes court evidence. Because once you put mental anguish on the record, your whole world, texts, therapy records, behind-the-scenes drama, becomes fair game. And Blake clearly wants the drama on her terms.
Agreeing to drop the claims, meaning that she has a right to refile these claims in the future. No, please force her hand here. This isn't fair.
Freedman's camp had been saying this was coming all along, that Blake would fold the second her medical records were on the line. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. Whether those files contain nothing at all or something she's desperate to keep buried, one thing's certain. It's not a good look.
Why is she suddenly abandoning those two most pertinent claims? Okay, those two claims where it just outright spells that they inflicted upon her all this emotional distress. And the answer is simple. It's obvious. It's what I said was coming all along.
So where does that leave us? A lawsuit hemorrhaging credibility, a star retreating faster than a bad headline, and a legal opponent who just flipped the entire script. Bryan Freedman didn't just defend his client. He turned Blake Lively's courtroom drama into a masterclass in what happens when the accusations stay loud, but the evidence disappears. And for Blake, this could be the opening chapter in a very public unraveling Hollywood won't forget anytime soon.
Blake Lively's team then comes back and indicates, okay, no, we're just gonna drop claims 10 and claims 11 altogether. So you no longer need us to sign that release.
Now let's rewind. Lively's team tried to spin the withdrawal as a streamlining move, claiming they wanted to focus on broader claims like harassment and retaliation, where emotional harm could still be considered, conveniently without needing to show actual proof. But Freedman wasn't having it. His response was ruthless and simple. If you're suing someone for emotional distress, you'd better be ready to prove it. Blake clearly wasn't.
They filed a motion since they asked her to submit that to them. Tell us who your doctors are. We will obviously file for a HIPAA release. She says, no dice, I'm not signing.
And here's where things get spicy. Industry whispers suggest the real reason behind Blake's retreat was to avoid handing over her medical records, the kind of documentation that would be required to substantiate emotional trauma.
Find this, and you will then be compelled to share this information.
So what exactly is in those records that she's so desperate to keep locked up? Maybe nothing. Maybe something explosive. Either way, the optics are abysmal. Because in a high-stakes case like this, refusing transparency isn't neutral. It practically hands Baldoni's team the narrative on a silver platter that she's evasive, that she's hiding something, that the whole thing might be performative.
He has just come back, and he has very much decided in favor of Team Baldoni. He's effectively saying via an order, which we can pull this up.
But wait, it gets juicier. Freedman didn't just block the withdrawal quietly. He filed a motion to deny her the ability to drop the claims without prejudice, meaning she couldn't bring them back later without showing hard evidence. And he didn't bury it in the paperwork. He made it public, loudly, strategically, forcing Lively's legal team into a very uncomfortable spotlight at the exact moment they were trying to disappear.
Obviously, Blake Lively's team does what they always do, and they accuse them of engaging in a publicity stunt, saying they don't need this. They want the motion to be completely squashed.
Lively's camp, right on cue, cried foul, accusing Freedman of turning the case into a PR circus. The irony? Almost too perfect. This from the same team that blitzed the media with salacious accusations before filing anything in court. Let's be real. This whole saga was designed to make headlines. Now that the spotlight's too hot, they're suddenly shy.
Statement added that Lively will continue to use her voice to speak up for justice on behalf of herself and others. I mean, this sickens me.
And it's not just the courtroom where things are unraveling. Public opinion is shifting. Fast. Blake's credibility took a nosedive when she was spotted at red carpet events and celebrating career highs, all while claiming to be emotionally wrecked. Her film Another Simple Favor just hit #1 on Amazon, and her social media positively glowing. The disconnect between her alleged trauma and her public persona is becoming impossible to ignore.
Effectively saying via an order, which we can pull this up, and you can see the language on this, which he has stamped, that he's not going to compel her at this time to sign the HIPAA privacy release, granted that he fully expects her to therefore drop all claims of emotional distress.
So at this point, the question writes itself. Is this just a legal misfire, or a full-blown PR disaster spiraling out of control? Because whether intentional or not, Freedman's surgical precision is exposing cracks in Lively's entire strategy. This lawsuit might not just flop, it could go down as the single worst move of her career. Freedman isn't just defending Baldoni, he's rewriting the entire playbook, and Blake's team can't decide whether to applaud the finesse or panic at the fallout.
So mind you, at the beginning of all of this, Blake Lively, remember, fought for her attorney's eyes-only protection.
Let's break it down. Freedman went straight for the jugular. Lively's sudden refusal to submit basic evidence, like medical records, that might actually support her emotional distress claims. Her team wanted a quiet exit, a withdrawal, without prejudice, meaning they could refile those claims later. No questions asked. Freedman saw right through it.
Hasn't produced a single shred of evidence to that effect.
Let's break it down. Freedman went straight for the jugular. Lively's sudden refusal to submit basic evidence, like medical records, that might actually support her emotional distress claims. Her team wanted a quiet exit, a withdrawal, without prejudice, meaning they could refile those claims later, no questions asked. Freedman saw right through it.
News, Blake Lively has abandoned two of the claims against him, the claims that are pertaining to infliction of emotional distress, which means we are close, ladies and gentlemen. We are inching ever closer to the inevitable end of this lawsuit.
And that move says everything. Baldoni's defense isn't just playing defense, it's playing chess. Strategic, assertive, relentless. Freedman's message is loud and clear. If you're going to accuse someone of something this serious, come armed with facts. If you can't do that, then don't expect to walk away without consequences.
Dropping these claims because we're just streamlining and focusing on other elements of this case.
Lively's refusal to hand over evidence isn't just a minor legal hiccup, it's a blaring neon sign flashing weak case ahead. And here's where it gets even juicier. Freedman didn't just handle it quietly in chambers. No, he filed motions publicly, making his position loud and clear. If Blake's team wanted to play the PR game, Freedman was more than ready to match their energy. Naturally, Lively's camp cried foul, accusing Baldoni's side of fueling a media circus. The irony? Richer than Hollywood's catering table. Blake didn't just join the circus. She brought the tent, the popcorn, and a full marching band of clowns.